The following is a presentation of the ACC Network, an exclusive production of Raycom Sports.
A lovely day on the campus of the University of North Carolina. Old home week for Kai Bowman and Jerome Robinson. And they'll be facing off against Joel Berry and company for the defending national champion North Carolina Tar Heels. Tonight, the ACC Network brings you Boston College and North Carolina. From the Dean Smith Center, hi again, everyone. Tim Brando by my side, the G-Man. And Mike, this is a North Carolina team that needs to get its mojo back. And in doing so, they decide to go small and hope that Luke May can get it going again.
Tim, I don't know, a walk-on in college has come farther than him in his career. And first under the scene last year in the NCAA tournament, and this year, 8 double-doubles so far. Struggled up in Virginia, but he has been unbelievable this year. And then for Boston College, Jerome Robinson, the thing I look at, your numbers go up in league play, and with this guy they have, he can score at 3 levels. He's averaging 26 points a game in his 4 ACC contests.
It looks like a great matchup. Give me, Mike, your Ford keys, your Carolina Ford keys to tonight's game.
Well, for BC, they can't have empty possessions, meaning low turnovers and try to get a shot every time up and down the floor. For North Carolina, they want to use their size, control both backboards, and if they get offensive rebounds, convert on them.
Boston College already has one tremendous upset against the Duke Blue Devils. They got that at the Conti Forum. Can they get another signature victory tonight on the road against that other blue-blooded team from Carolina? Stay tuned.
ACC basketball is being brought to you by Food Lion, raising standards without raising prices. How refreshing. By New York Life, with the right guidance, everyone can be good at life. By Coyote Tractor. And by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.
The 2017 NCAA Tournament Champion hardware on display as we look now at our Food Lion starting lineups. We mentioned at the very top that Luke May will play the 5 spot, and so Cam Johnson moves in to a starting role as a result. Chapman, Robinson, Bowman, Mitchell, and Popovich will go for this Boston College team that is not particularly deep. A lot of their guys, including Robinson and Bowman in the backcourt, could play up to 40 minutes tonight. Our officials, Tim Nestor, Jeffrey Anderson, and John Higgins. And the opening tap is controlled to North Carolina.
And Tim, with that move, BC is going to change a little bit how they guard May. They're going to have to play him more like a 4, respect his ability to shoot out on the perimeter.
May backs in, no double coming, and he took an extra step. Playing with his back to the basket there. Pretty good defense that time without much help.
You know, the bigs are going to be important, but these are 2 teams that are based on their perimeter, and you can see that time the BC wanting to stay at home, allowing Popovich to play one-on-one down in the low post.
These guards have been arguably the best tandem in the ACC. The way they play, they've been so productive. Inside, it doesn't go for Popovich.
How about both teams going right to their centers, first possession on the other end of the floor, and the more that they can get that established, Roy Williams' whole offense, his whole coaching career has been based on a big inside getting touches.
Berry, not there, and there's a big coming in for the slam, Cameron Johnson. A grad transfer from Pitt. And it's 2-0 North Carolina.
Well, he's really struggled his last couple games, has been dealing with injuries. Seems to like that starting position at the 4.
Robinson on the wing. Count it. Well, it's a homecoming for him. Up to 20 or so family and friends have made their way here tonight. Here's Williams. Ooh, the iron, unkind, big time to him.
You got Robinson and Bowman both coming home, and throughout their careers, young careers, have played well against the North Carolina teams.
Chapman can really get it going too. This kid has been outstanding from an offensive standpoint so far for Jim Christian.
Tim, earlier this year, BC beats Duke. I think they're going to have a similar 3-point shooting game to have a chance at this one as well.
May with a dribble drive. And talking with Roy before the game, the idea to get May into that spot, perhaps it'll make him a little more aggressive. Plus, from a matchup standpoint, BC does play small.
Well, and Popovich has got a tough time guarding laterally and guarding drivers.
There's a rejection from Williams. Quick outlet to Joel Berry. Leaves it for Johnson. He turned down a shot right there. I think Berry expected Johnson to let it go.
And sometimes when you turn down a shot like that, another good one doesn't appear, and that was a fourth shot.
Pinson is rejected. Nice work underneath there by Stephon Mitchell, knocking it away.
And here's the look, the drive inside, and good help from behind that time, but then both teams getting it done defensively, but great foul right there. You've got to get bodies on people, especially when you're a smaller team like BC. Everybody's got to check out.
May. That was a confident move off the bounce.
And I think, Tim, this last stretch of 3 games, he's been putting a lot of pressure on himself, and a good start, really key for him. He had such a great start to the year. Boy, I don't know if a walk-on has come any farther in his career.
Bowman, a little strong that time, well checked by Berry, and Theo Pinson clears. All the way to the rack. Not there. And it's pulled down by Popovich.
Pinson's like the Swiss Army knife guy out there for North Carolina. He does a little bit of everything. He does a lot of things pretty well.
Robinson pulls up. Pulled down by Cameron Johnson.
It doesn't look like the shot clock is going to be in jeopardy in this game of getting anywhere near 0.
May falling away. Pretty obvious they wanted to get him started. He's got 6 of the Tar Heels 8.
That's a tough shot. But you know what? That was a confident looking shot. There was no hesitation right there.
We talked about getting May's mojo back. They've done that in this opening sequence. Right away, Roy will go to his bench. Garrison Brooks will check in just before the under 16-minute mark to get Pinson a little time or extra time.
Sometimes you have to worry about the psyche of a freshman who had started every game. All of a sudden, you're not starting. So it doesn't matter. But, your minutes will be the same. You play at the end, but I think Roy wanted to get him into the game early. Good move right there. Maybe gets him some touches.
Poor pass that time as he tried to thread the needle to May. And the trailer is Robinson. That won't go, and Williams clears the long rebound. Mitchell couldn't get it down for Boston College. Berry, a jump stop. Reverse move, but couldn't get it. Back to Luke May. In traffic, he gets it done.
Boy, 4 straight baskets by him, and a nice seal that time. Is undersized against Popovich, but got inside of him, and Mitchell used the pump fake and got some space.
Robinson running that curl, gets the high pick.
They'll run ball screens, and then they'll run screens away from the ball as well. Weak side.
Popovich, smooth move, but everything but the finish.
These guys get some looks, and they want to try to put some pressure on the interior people to defend.
Williams can't connect. May on the offensive boards. Well, that's been North Carolina's way of getting things done, getting second chance opportunities, 3rd and 4th. That's the way the Tar Heels ammo goes. And it's been noticeably missing in the last couple of games. This is a 10-0 run.
And I think this is what North Carolina fans envisioned from Cameron Johnson when he transferred here from Pitt. Terrific start for him as well.
Bowman in traffic, finds Popovich, who can't buy one. He's had good looks. He just hasn't seen one go down. Berry. They're going to wave it off. Nestor had the foul, the push on the floor prior to the shot. We've got a timeout. Tar Heels came out dancing. And it's been boom shakalaka on the boards. 10 unanswered at one point and a 6-point lead. first-round draft pick for car insurance.
And Tim, this is how BC scores. We talked about it. It'll start on the weak side, and then you'll get a ball. You'll get man screens on the weak side, and Robinson coming up, squaring up from the 3, but the good spacing, swinging the ball side to side.
See the rebounding story on the season, and Roy Williams got exactly what he wanted as he's chatting with Steve Robinson and Hubert Davis there along his sidelines.
Well, look at this. I mean, it's 16-2, Tim. Yeah. The thing is, 8 of those are offensive rebounds already, and this is where the field goal percentage is can be thrown off. 6 of 16, 10 misses. They've gotten 8 of them back.
Out of the timeout, Luke May and others sit. By the way, May, 8 points in the first 5 minutes of the game tonight. That eclipses the total of 6 he had all day against Virginia on Saturday. Mitchell giving it up. Tough shot from deep, and it won't fall for Jordan Chapman.
And that's where Pinson really comes in handy, especially on the defensive end of the floor. He's so long, you get a hand up. But BC's guards are fantastic, but undersized.
You see those runs early on. And with North Carolina, you expect that. Boston College very capable of exploding themselves. High off the window, Kenny Williams. You know, when he came here, he was supposed to be a three-point shooting specialist, and what he's become is the best on-ball defender other than this side of Theo Pinson for Roy Williams.
Also 36, so he's off of 3rd in the conference in three-point shooting at 46%. So, you know, that defense usually comes last for the younger players.
And Bowman takes it inside and is knocked down by Robinson. Number 4 just into the game for North Carolina. Brandon, youngster from Douglasville, Georgia. Who says this isn't a game of contact?
Yeah, here it is, and you can see the perimeters again in North Carolina really trying to drive Bowman, Robinson, Chapman off that three-point line, make them take shots in the paint.
He loads up, does Kai Bowman, against Tobacco Road teams. I mean, he is just incredible. That takes in NC State, Wake, North Carolina, and Duke.
I think there's a little grudge there for maybe being overlooked by some of the in-state schools.
Well, he wasn't overlooked by the Heels for football. Pinson with a nice drive. He's got his first bucket, and it's 16-7. The coach that recruited him, though, left the football program, Coach Dish, and when that happened, his eyes opened more for basketball, and he could have walked on at North Carolina. Roy Williams would have loved that, but he was ready to go someplace else to play hoops. That's a foul underneath as Jerome Robinson took it inside. And it goes against Theo. Pinson picking up his first.
Well, so far for the big guns for BC, a slow start. Bowman, Robinson, 1 of 6 to begin this game, and they've missed their last 9 shots.
Luka Krajewicz coming into the game out of that break, and he is going to hope to bring some brawn to the painted area. Dealing with Pinson now, just too quick, way too quick.
Right, I told you, he can play multiple, he can defend multiple positions, and with this lineup out on the floor, he's the primary ball handler, Tim. He'd be a little bit of a gunslinger with the basketball with his assists, but really strong off the drive.
Robinson from the seat of his pants knocks down a 3 ball. He's got 6, and it's 18-10.
Really, you know, just incredible ACC numbers. We talked about the top 26 points a game.
We got John Carlos Reyes on the floor now, too, for BC. That's a walk. It'll go the other way. 3 turnovers committed by the Heels. Freezing earlier in the week, but the play-by-play guy from Louisiana came in, and suddenly it was 60 degrees. I'm taking all the credit, G-Man. I am. Timeout. State of North Carolina, and Jerome Robinson just down the road in Raleigh, North Carolina at Broughton High School. And Jerome's parents, Jerome Sr. and Amy, are on hand tonight. His brothers Justin and Jonathan are here. Cousins Yvonne and Keith Lewis, Carlos Rogers. And there's Kai's stepdad and his mom, Laretha, his mom, and Benjamin Pritchard, his stepfather. His brothers David Carter and Michael Bowman are here. Auntie Dee, or Auntie Dee, and Grandma Aretha, all here.
Well, and it's,
for tonight's game.
Tim, it's a tradition. Each player gets 4 tickets to an away game. So I'm sure there was a lot of horse trading going on between those two and the rest of the guys on the squad.
Like this guy right here, right? You go to the guy that's from Slovenia. I'm sure you're not going to have any family coming in, so Luka probably gave up a couple of his tickets to Mr. Robinson or Mr. Bowman. He gets into the scoring column himself. May forced that one up. Another second chance, and there's Joel Berry.
Well, BC is just getting pushed underneath the basket right now, Tim. They're not establishing good enough rebounding space. They've got to clear people out. North Carolina, in the referee's mind, they've already established themselves as being dominant on the offensive glass.
See if they can get Krashevic more involved here. Nice pass off there, and it's through the hoop for Jordan Chapman. That's good ball movement there, and he's got 5, 21-14.
You've got 3 guys out there that are capable of putting up 30 points on any night.
How about going on the road to Virginia and throwing down 29 as Robinson did? How many are going to do that?
Some teams don't reach that, don't come close to that in a half at Virginia.
No question. In fact, Roy Williams was so impressed with the way BC had been playing and the job that his counterpart tonight, Jim Christian, had done when we were at today's shoot-around. Unexpectedly for Jim anyway, Roy showed up to shake his hand and wish him nothing but the best, which was great.
And Roy had been battling a little bit of an illness. He said yesterday was the first day he got to yell at his team, and I'm sure over these last few games there were many times that he couldn't even. He said told us he couldn't even make himself be heard in the huddle during games.
After an impressive start, you can make a very good case that teams, particularly defending champions like North Carolina, can be ranked a bit too high too soon. That may have been the case.
Every year there are reputation rankings.
Oh, sure.
And you're coming off and you're defending national championship. You're going to get some respect.
Chapman, well, he is getting involved in a big way now. He's got 8, and it's 23-17.
Well, and he's been a little bit of a tough cover for Cameron Johnson out on the perimeter.
Another big Sterling Manley on the floor now for North Carolina, the freshman from Ohio. Right on cue, he's blocked right there. Great job by Krashevic. Well, knocking that one away underneath the Carolina bench.
BC, because of the rebounding, Tim, they've had to go big with both Popovich and Krashevic in the game together. So it's actually BC has had to adjust to North Carolina's game.
They've had to go big as opposed to Carolina going small. And May with a 3, his first from downtown. He's got 11 of the 26 for North Carolina.
See, when you're in a funk for a few games, you're thinking on every shot. He's not thinking right now. He's just reacting and shooting, and that's where you have to be to get in that zone.
By the way, when you're playing Virginia, they'll make you think when they're defending you. They just seemed indifferent, North Carolina, on the offensive end much of that day. Popovich can't get that one to go. Well defended by Sterling. And here's Williams for 3.
He's one of their more reliable three-point shooters. And Luke May not only doing it at the rim, but finding people on the perimeter. Here's the look outside. You just see it over the top, running that secondary break. He runs to the corner, no defender back, and BC really hasn't had anybody on the offensive glass. But right from the very start, Tim, it became evident that they were going to get the ball to Luke May and get him to regain some of his confidence. And he has responded very efficient. The only player in the game in double figures at 11 points. 5 of 8 shooting, 5 rebounds, knocking down 3s.
And the second chance points, Mike, a blowout, 14-0 for North Carolina. And he's not shot well of late after that scintillating start. But when you get the 5 of 8 by moving to the 5 spot, I'm guessing he doesn't mind that.
Yeah, and he's taking advantage of his quickness, his outside shooting. But the thing is, Tim, this year, last year he was probably 10th
Oh, yeah.
Or 11th on the scouting report.
Listen,
this year he's second.
Listen.
And that makes a big difference.
How many people didn't even know who he was until he did what he did to Kentucky? Right? A lot of college basketball fans, not maybe those of us in the ACC, but around the country had no idea who he was until he lit up Kentucky and was the player of the South region in the NCAA regionals.
And then didn't score in the Final Four.
Exactly.
But still, I mean, there were great players, but he stepped up at a huge moment.
Sterling Manley picks up the foul, his first. Popovich checks out of the game. Stephon Mitchell on the floor. Jalik Felton is also into the game for the first time. We'll see how this young man plays. Enormous potential. That ball was deflected by Pinson. Leads to a run out for Williams. And a foul by Sterling Manley. 31-17.
They're just climbing all over the offensive glass. And it was all started by Pinson getting that hand up. I think he got a piece of that jump shot, and that's what ignited the break.
Bowman can't get it to go. He's struggling early. Well defended there by Jalik Felton. Pinson, what a pass! What a pass! Pinson wheeling and dealing to May. 33-17.
And Tim, that's where his size pays dividends, because he can get into the paint and see over people.
Robinson off the alley-oop and knocked away by North Carolina.
And Pinson was the one that recovered there.
Last touch by BC, so the Heels will have it when we come back. They're on a tear here in the land of the Tar Heel. You're watching the ACC Network. It's an exclusive production of Raycom Sports. We're also streaming live now on the ACC.com and on the official ACC mobile app. Our coverage of tonight's game being broadcast on AFN, the American Forces Network, and we welcome the nearly 1 million men and women of the U.S. Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, and Marines stationed around the globe in 175 countries in the high seas. Proud to have you with us tonight. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski in the midst of another 10-0 Tar Heel run against Boston College. Manley. And again, North Carolina just too tall and too quick to the loose 50-50s. May one more time. Boston College finally corrals it and gets the rebound from Stephon Mitchell. Stop and go for Bowman. Forced that one. It was knocked away by Luke May.
Yeah, really tried to take on too much right now. Tim, we talked about at the top of the air about getting shots. And BC has not had a turnover in this game, but I can't remember an uncontested shot in the first 13 minutes.
Bowman also perhaps a little stressed. He's been well defended. He's 0 for 4 from the floor. He needs to stay with it. May is checking him here. Chapman. Not there, and it's pulled down by May. No second chances for BC. Look at that. Manley just could not get it to go. Should have dunked it. It was a wonderful pass. Robinson up and under. Boy, you talk about talent. He's got plenty of it.
Well, that's the thing. I think they need to start building inside out a little bit. We talked about him getting driven off the lane. Beautiful finish inside, but the more they do that, I think it'll give them better looks at three.
May looks really comfortable having to play with his back to the basket. That time forced that pass to Manley.
Well, the thing was, that's the first time he's been double teamed in this game, and Jim Christian's hand was forced now with that start.
Ball's on the deck. May fights for it. Stays loose. Robinson saved it. Then we had a slip. It's a scrum. Bowman comes away with it, and a teardrop falls. Wow! That was some sequence. They're going to have to clean up a lot of perspiration after all of that.
That looked more like rugby than basketball. And the bodies all over the floor, centering it back, slip outside, and then how about this is what Bowman did. He's so strong.
I got to tell you too, Mike. I love the no call. I love because the officials: Tim Nestor, Jeffrey Anderson, John Higgins. We're talking about three of the really good ones, and they let him go, let him play. And what we got out of it was a refreshing sequence. It may not have been something that Mr. Naismith, the good doctor, would have loved, but it was excellent hustle.
Well, and those are the 50-50 balls that to crawl back into this game, BC is going to have to get.
Cam Johnson back on the floor, number 13 in white.
See the double team now coming again.
And he fouled Johnson, too. Gets the foul. Johnson cutting to the basket as May, as you so aptly put it, identified the double team.
Yeah, and that's, you know, you find out who the hot guy is, and Cameron Johnson, that they're doubling big, so he's going to have a look down the lane.
Chapman got the foul, his first.
Luke May, actually, you know, you watch college basketball, there aren't a lot of 4s and 5s that have a positive assist to turnover ratio. Luke May does.
Cameron Johnson, by the way, got his communications degree from Pitt in 3 years. Cameron Johnson played at Vanderbilt, transferred over, and then went to Pitt with Kevin Stallings, and those numbers in those starts are outstanding. But coming here to be a part of this North Carolina team at this stage for him, really good. And in this building a year ago playing for Pitt, he went for 24, 6 of 9 from the floor. Roy Williams liked what he saw, and the opportunity presented itself as a graduate transfer. Mitchell a wraparound, and he's fouled.
And it almost didn't happen with Cameron Johnson. Pitt had this had an internal policy of not letting a player transfer within the conference, but after a couple of weeks that was resolved, and he was released and allowed to come down here.
That can happen a number of times, and I think coaches understand over time that it just is not a good look, well, particularly after the player has graduated.
And also, you're probably going to be on the other end of it at some point in time, you know. So,
absolutely.
You know, there's honor amongst thieves.
well stated, my good Duke friend. Mitchell can really help this team. Those are his first 2 points of the night. 35-23. The way these teams play, double-digit leads for either team can be easily conquered by the other. Nice interior passing. Cam Johnson delivers the goods to Garrison Brooks.
Yep. Just had his hands ready. I always love it when you talk about interior passing, Tim, the bounce pass. No hands there. It's much easier to catch.
Lead back to 14, equaling. 16 was the largest lead, so they're 1 bucket away from equaling that large lead again. Chapman really being checked by Johnson. Shot clock's at 2. Bowman under duress gets it on the iron, and it's pulled away by North Carolina. And here's Kenny Williams again. Tapped out. This time it's retrieved by Bowman. And Kai lost it. Still some slipping out there on the hardwood. May in traffic is going to be fouled by Carlos Reyes. John Carlos Reyes. His first.
And I wonder, Tim, if this is the first warm day we've had in Carolina in a long time, and I wonder if there's some condensation on the floor as a result of that.
It was interesting as we
and
were
it wasn't you who brought the warm weather down. You said going to break.
As interesting, though, when you think about it, we actually today in 60-degree temperatures, you can see some of the salt and also some lingering ice on steps coming into the cargo area where our television truck would be, and it's really interesting to see. We've got a clock malfunction, I think, off of the inbounds, and they're going to have to take a look at it.
And how about, North Carolina sitting with a 14-point lead right now with Joel Berry. We haven't said his name a whole lot. Yep. A relatively quiet night, 1 of 5 shooting so far.
5 points total. But you're right, he hasn't looked for his shot that often. It was pretty obvious that Luke May was the focal point of the offensive attention early in this game to get him going, get his confidence back. They're just going to take a second, I think, off of the shot clock.
Well, and also, Barry's expending a lot of energy in the defensive end of the floor. He's got his hands full down there.
The issue for Boston College at this stage seems to be having any success on the defensive end rebounding and getting Kai Bowman going. He has struggled from the floor. He did get that one up against the clock after the scrum we had a moment ago. after that loose ball situation, everybody on the deck. So now we're told we're adding a second to both the game and shot. And we've rectified the clock problem. North Carolina's almost doubled up on field goals. They have after that.
A well-designed play that time. You've got 4 guys across the free throw line, cutting lanes, and boy, Cameron Johnson just taking advantage of it. Curl off the top, wide open layup.
Look at those points off the paint. And that's the difference too. 14 more points off the paint and 16 the lead, equaling the largest of the night for North Carolina. Yet another loose ball, and it's run down by Boston College, and that's a foul on Berry. The Tar Heels coming off the 2017 National Championship at home, trying to get to even in 2018. The 2017 Most Outstanding Player in the South Region, first non-starter to win the MOP since Marcus Camby in '96. 16 points against Butler, 17 in the game winner against Kentucky. Third player since '85 to advance to the Final Four on a last-second shot since Christian Laettner and Scotty Reynolds, who did it for Villanova against Pitt. His dad, Mark, was a Tar Heel quarterback, led the ACC in '86 with 1,400 passing yards. It means a lot to this young man to be where he is and to come from where he's come from as a North Carolina Tar Heel.
And it's, Tim, it's not easy to win a championship.
No.
And sometimes you need games like that from unexpected places. And good for Luke May stepping up, and boy, the confidence was carried over to this year.
Jerome Robinson hit another 3-ball, and he's got 11 on the night. He needs a little help from his friends. Berry, little scoop to the hoop, can't get that one to go. Bowman on the other end.
Well, he's just got no outlets, nobody to throw the ball to.
Got an open look that he didn't expect and left it shy of the mark.
They didn't have that corner covered, and he thought there was going to be a guy there.
May with 9 rebounds now, and Williams tracks another tray right through the nylon. 8 in the game for him, and it's 42-26.
And it's May's start that's collapsed the defense, and now the perimeter people are getting a good look.
Popovich finds Bowman, and maybe that'll light him up a little.
And that's the first really good look that I think he's gotten.
Yeah, in rhythm.
Yeah, and sometimes all it takes is that shot, and he's not going to stop shooting by any means. But they can BC make a little bit of a run into the halftime, but that certainly won't help matters.
May is just absolutely feeling it now. He's got 16. Confidence is just fine, thanks.
And I think the Luke cheer has become pretty popular here at the Smith Center.
Popovich has his pocket pick, but he was saved. Chapman finds Bowman again. Round and round it goes in. And it's 45-32.
A couple of looks from the same place.
Berry off the bounce. Look at that. May with his 10th board and a putback for 18 on the night.
Well, just simple basketball. I mean, he sets the screen, gives Berry a look, and then he rolled right to the front of the rim.
He's running the floor, and just like a Tyler Hansbrough kind of performance for him. And there's Bowman answering, and yeah, I think he is feeling it now. Mama's looking on, and she enjoys it. 47-35.
How about Luke May, a double-double already at the half?
Yeah, unbelievable performance. As I said, it reminds me of Tyler Hansbrough, the way he's playing right now on both ends of the floor. Coming up on the Hardy's Halftime Report, we'll head around the ACC for news and notes. The conference, we make our way to Brooklyn for the 65th ACC tournament. We're already on the road. All that plus stats on the Hardy's Halftime Report. Look at that. 18 and 10. How about another one? Why not? We may listen to that. Listen to that. Right on cue from you, G-Man.
Yeah, well, he may decide to drop the kick one in. It's one of those nights.
And Berry's going to pick up that foul on Bowman. Yeah, it's Jim Christian's got to be saying, look, fellas, sometimes we can play well and another team can just be playing out of their minds. And right now, as an individual, Luke May is doing that.
And you know, nights like this, you guy gets going. It's tough to put the fire out.
Yeah.
You know, about the only thing you do is at some point, I'd never have it hurting anybody, but just taking a hard foul or letting him know you're there.
Yeah.
But he's just in his own little world right now.
They already have right now, UNC, as you see Robinson off the back rim. More points already than they had the entire game at Virginia. Pinson running into Robinson, and then he'll pick up the foul. I mean, look at that. They got 50 now. They couldn't get that an entire game against Tony Bennett's pack line defense on Saturday.
Well, and part of the reason is, one, the biggest part is the rebounding. But then you look at, they've got 12 fast break points already in this game team. We've seen the pace, and Virginia likes to crawl it up the floor, but BC will run a little bit, and they've got 12 fast break points already in this half.
2 fouls now on Jerome Robinson. See the shot and game clock differential, about 4 seconds. Pinson is going to operate and initiate right about now. Why not call that number?
Crowd was stunned when he missed.
He was too. Bowman lost the handle, and that's the end of the half. North Carolina led by as many as 16 twice and lead by 15 at the break. But remember, this is a BC team that has played at a very high level and can score in bunches. So it could still be a very entertaining second half in Chapel Hill. Hardy's halftime report is coming up. We'll tell you what's going on around the league and around college basketball after this.
Welcome back in. College Basketball Live, sitting here with a few ACC coaches. There's one first-time head coach in this group, David Padgett. When some assistants, most assistants get a head coaching job, it happens in April. You got yours in October. How would you assess the challenges of getting your team ready for the season in the preseason?
I don't know if we have enough time to talk about the challenges we face, but, the good news about the team I inherited, we have a very good mix of older players who've played college basketball, seniors, juniors, even a sophomore in VJ King, and we have a very talented freshman class. Obviously, they're freshmen. There's a lot they need to learn and go through, and there's no easy way to get freshman experience except to let them go through it. But our older guys have been tremendous in trying to help the younger guys and get ready for the season. So just each practice, we're just trying to get better than we were the day before.
You had a little more lead time when you stepped over from an assistant to replacing John Calipari there at Memphis. What advice would you give him stepping in, although the time frame is a little bit different?
No, David's going to do a great job, and he's a basketball guy, and his dad was a really good coach as well too, and so he's going to do great. And they're good. Their team's really good, and following. With Coach Pitino, and when I took over at Memphis following Coach Calipari, it's just they're hard to do because the success that you're following in both guys. So you just do the best you can.
It was a primary head coaching job there at Memphis. You're just getting started. Mike, reflect on what it was. You're at the pinnacle now, the coaching in the ACC. Reflect to your first head coaching job when you slid into that chair and had that ownership. Maybe an overwhelming feeling. What was that like?
I think it was. I remember my first year at the University of Delaware in 1995. I wasn't very trusting of delegating. I tried to do everything and a little too much. I've learned to delegate more. But I think the biggest thing is you try to be yourself. You've worked for a guy. You've been with a head coach. I think to develop your own identity and be yourself, as soon as you can get confident doing that's going to be helpful.
Jim? What was that like?
My first head coaching job was at a Division II school called American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts. And recruiting there was very, very difficult. But we spotted a young man I thought could really turn our program around. His name is Rick Carlisle. And we tried to recruit Rick Carlisle to a Division II school. 2 years later, I was the assistant at Virginia, and Rick called me. He was playing at the University of Maine, and he transferred to Virginia, helped us get to the Final Four, now has been in the NBA since 1984. So when you're looking at players and trying to build a program, you got to find good players. Rick was a good player. We just couldn't get him to AIC.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are. You might be someplace soon that you can actually get him. Buzz, your first head coaching job, what was that like?
I remember it vividly. Very honored, grateful, bigger than any dream I'd ever had. Was very thankful that the University of New Orleans would hire me, and have felt that way every day over the last 11 years.
Brad?
Yeah, I was very blessed. I took over at UNC Wilmington, having been an assistant there for 8 years under a very good coach in Jerry Wainwright. So the program was in a great situation. We had good players coming back, a good foundation. We'd been to the tournament. And so really the ease of transition for me was much easier than most, in that I already knew the league, I knew the university, and Coach Wainwright had given me a ton of responsibility. So that really gave me a lot of confidence.
You mentioned getting to the NCAA tournament, and when you're at maybe a lower level or a mid-major school, it's getting to the tournament's a great accomplishment. When you're in the ACC, it's not just getting to the tournament, it's making a run. You could have a great year, maybe even win a championship in the league, but you don't get to the second weekend, and it's almost forgettable in some fans' eyes. How do you guys self-assess when it comes to success relative to the NCAA tournament, whether it's getting there or advancing deep?
Well, for me, I mean, I've tried to be better just about your own personal success and what you define it as. I think when my time at Memphis, I was really unhealthy mentally, and just because I lived and died by every single game, and so when I came to Georgia Tech, I tried to have a better perspective on things, and it's a work in progress. It's hard to get to the tournament. I mean, I thought we had a good year last year, and we finished 11th place in this league. And I mean, and we had 8 wins in the league. I don't know if we'll ever get 8 wins again in this league. I mean, it's hard to do. And so, you know, if you just do the best you can, I've tried to be better about that and focusing on just doing the best you can and let the chips fall where they fall.
Now, as a player, obviously, you want to get as deep as you can. What about as a coach? He said when he started out, he didn't have a healthy perspective. You're just starting out. What's your perspective?
Well, I think at Louisville, it's just been long established that getting to the tournament per se isn't enough. I think making a deep run has come to be expected over the last 15, 16 years, and obviously we've had a lot of success. Now, I'm not going to put any pressure on myself or on my team to say, hey, we have to get to the Elite Eight or we have to get to the Final Four, because that's just not realistic. You know, everything we've been going through, me as a first-time head coach, that wouldn't be fair to anybody. So we're just trying to have as good of a season as we can have, win as many games as we can have, kind of just break up into 3 segments. You got non-conference, you've got conference, and then postseason. So just taking one segment at a time.
How does that change as you get deeper into your career? Because when we refer to you guys, it's how many Final Fours does he have? How many national championships?
Well, that dynamic happened a little bit this year for us. The 2 previous years we've been to the Elite Eight. We get knocked out in the second round by a very good West Virginia team, but we finished in the top 4 of the regular season and got to the championship game of the ACC tournament. And so I was trying to tell our guys that, you know, we had a pretty good run, and even it was even harder trying to explain that to my fans, but maybe they finally got it at the end of the day.
What about you made a deep run with George Mason, now here you're at Miami.
Yeah, 20 years ago, I had an incredible opportunity to talk to the great John Wooden, who won 10 national championships. And he talked about one thing that you had to have to be successful as a coach. And he said you have to have balance. You have to have the understanding of what your expectations are, maybe very different than what anybody else is. And you just have to have that balance in your life, balance with your team, so that you're enjoying the journey. Not so much talking about, did you make the Final Four? So, and that's the way we've tried to approach it. We just want to be the best we can be every season we're competing.
Last thing, Buzz, it's validation, though, right? I mean, NCAA tournament, that's a thing you can sink your teeth into.
I think it just depends on what validation and who you're wanting the validation from. Not trying to be holier than thou. I like playing in the NCAA tournament because that means I have an extended period of time with our players each day. And so whether we win, whether we get there, I think that's for other people to judge. I think my responsibility as a leader is to help them grow to be the best people they can be, and if that means we play a couple extra games, maybe that time period helps them even more.
And Brad, you've had a taste of it there, Clement.
Yeah, we haven't been in a while, and certainly something that we want to get back to. We talk a lot about, playing in March with a chance to advance. That's kind of a phrase we use to kind of keep our momentum going, and I think it's something that you put the NCAA tournament out there. It's not as easy at some programs. It's more of a challenge, and
certainly you analyze each team and just try to get better working on that with that thought in mind for us.
Okay. Good perspective, guys. We'll wrap it up when we return. These guys have left quite a mark on their teams. What about the digital footprint, social media? Get into that for a few minutes now.
All right, let's start with your health.
Yeah.
You know, you're 70, and a lot of people want to ask how much longer do you want to go?
Do you want to ask that?
Yeah, I'm going to ask that. I'm going to ask you, how much longer do you want to go?
Yeah, I didn't get my knee replaced to retire. Let's put it that way. So I'm 70 years old. I think I'm definitely younger at heart. I have the knowledge, though, of a 70-year-old who's coached for 42 years and has coached 11 years with the U.S. team. And I think that's a good combination, especially at a great school. I want to make a difference. I'm enthusiastic. Come on, Kyle, I got you.
Grayson Allen, when describing you, called you a friend.
Yeah.
Which is interesting for a 21-year-old to call a 70-year-old a friend.
Right.
How do you think you've been able to connect with players these days and change and be able to adapt?
Well, I think it's up to the teacher to adapt so that his or her teachings are accepted easier by their pupils. I've had to adapt a lot. Not values, work ethic, and all that, but how you communicate, how you dress, what jokes you tell, do you stay current?
Grayson Allen is a really good basketball player. He also appears to be a dirty basketball player.
Well, his reputation for this precedes him.
What gives you confidence that Grayson, if you have confidence, that Grayson has kind of gotten past the issues, the tripping issues?
Well, you know, look, is it more tripping issues or what everyone made of a couple issues? I want Grayson to be Grayson. Grayson's, I think, as good a player as there is in the country. And I want him to be a leader, and I want him to not have a rear-view mirror.
How much did you worry about him last year, though, because of all the public outcry and the attention that he got? How much were you worried that he'd be able to handle it all?
You would have thought that there was a capital offense that had occurred. That's the attention, I think, that our program brings, the scrutiny, and you have to learn to live under that microscope. But he has had an opportunity to be in incredible situations where you don't play at the beginning of your freshman year. You are the hero of the national championship game. You're an All-American as a sophomore and you have an incident, and then that's unbelievably publicized. And then you have another situation, and then you're hurt the whole year. Holy mackerel. He's lived a lifetime in those 3 years, and I think it'll all end up really, really good.
How good can this team be? I mean, you have talent, you've got bigs. They're very different than a lot of your previous teams.
Yeah, our team is going to be very much a developing team. We have 3 guys in Marvin Bagley, Wendell Carter, and Marquise Bolden who are going to be pro players, maybe all 3 of them at the end of this year. We don't have the perimeter depth that we, like the last few years, but we have more big guys. And so we have to adjust what we do, and which we do every year.
Has your outlook of recruiting one that's changed? People think it has.
No. Everyone talks about us changing our recruiting philosophy. That's not the case. It's just that Grant Hill was in the mid-'90s or early '90s. If Grant Hill was today, he'd go too. But we would have still recruited Grant Hill. Leitner and Battier, and that's when it started for us with Elton Brand, but he was even here 2 years. I have not changed. The landscape has changed where it would be the best decision for them to go, and then I'm okay with that.
Whenever Blue Bloods face ranked road tests, it's gonna be a blockbuster.
The most passion, the most intensity. Great collection of hardware, both prior to and since the arrival of Roy Williams, now 67 years of age. There's 3 national championships here, 8-time National Coach of the Year. To have done what he's done at both Kansas and North Carolina may never be duplicated at two different institutions, and particularly blue blood programs like those.
Well, and to the only man in the history of the NCAA to win 400 games at two different schools.
That's amazing.
To show you, what going to Kansas, his record there, and then coming back home as it was, and putting three banners up in the rafters.
I noticed Hubert Davis was coaching the junior varsity game against Wake Tech earlier tonight. But I love coming here because of the throwback. A JV game still being played, and Roy Williams did that as well.
That was his second head coaching job after Owen High School up in the mountains near Asheville, and then, oh, yeah, okay, I'm ready for Kansas.
Yeah, I remember coming to Carmichael for the very first time, and Eddie Fogler was on the staff with Roy, and he was coaching in the JV games back then, so proud tradition continues.
Every assistant coach has coached at the JV team at some point.
Jared Haas did that, but now at Stanford and formerly at UAB. Popovich got a beautiful pass and then short-armed the shot. And a rare putback opportunity for Boston College by Stephon Mitchell. He's got 4.
This first 4 minutes is going to be critical for BC to just not let this game get completely out of shape.
May just lost his dribble that time. That was good defense by Popovich, and the 5th turnover, just the 5th turnover for North Carolina tonight.
And it's tough, in that situation. They had the whole left side cleared out, but it forced May to go to his offhand.
Bowman, a wraparound pass and a beauty inside, and maybe Nick Popovich can help them a bit. This kid averages just under 10 and 6 rebounds a game. They need a little help from their friends inside Boston College, and that foul is going to be whistled inside, and it goes against Stephon Mitchell. Jim Christian, when he took over this job at BC, most people thought that was a dead-end job, and he's really built it back up in a short amount of time. Finally has some returning production offensively with this backcourt of his. Barry can't connect. Here comes Bowman. Leaving it for Chapman, and the iron kind early to the Eagles.
Well, and all of a sudden, North Carolina came out of the locker room unlike the way they played in the first half. They're just not quite the step there, and BC playing with a lot of purpose right now.
And they can explode, as we said. They can score in bunches. Cam Johnson with the hoop and hard.
Yeah, good take inside. And aside from that first drive, not a concerted effort to get the ball to May to get him reignited. This is the guy we're talking about, the third guy who's going to step up, and then Chapman, and they really missed when Deontay Hawkins went down. That was a big hit for them.
Yes, it was. Deontay, the kid out of Dayton, a grad transfer, was going to do a lot. He was averaging 12 and 9, and another big-time threat. Plus, it gave the backcourt a little time to get a breather. Right now, Robinson and Bowman have to play about 40 minutes. That's a beautiful drive and dish, and Popovich on the receiving end of a magnificent dime from his friends. Nice work inside as Luke May answers, and it's 55-44.
Good spin move that time inside. Really impressed with his ability to put the ball on the floor as well as post up and knock down shots.
Popovich sets that high pick, and Bowman looks to negotiate around the baseline. This kid can pass it. That time he found a man on the wing. Bada bing, bada boom, as he gets it to Stephon Mitchell.
That was supposed to go to Jordan Chapman as a cutter, but it went through his hands right to the three-point shooter.
Well, that once 16-point lead has been carved in half. May over Popovich.
It's just a tough cover for Popovich. I talked about it early in the game, but they're giving him a lot of space, and the whole middle was wide open, and he had room. That's normally reserved for a guard to give him that kind of respect.
Yeah, Krashevic will come in on the next dead ball for BC. Bowman, an open lane, hammer time from Carolina with love, says the young man from Chestnut Hill. 57-49. He exploded along the baseline.
And he's the one guy that Jim Christian is not worried about with the minutes.
Nice work by Williams off the feed from Cam Johnson. Well, I love the pace of play here in the second, G-Man.
Well, you talked about complete opposites with what they had to do up at Virginia. But BC, whether on the road or at home, they're willing to get up and down.
Listen, this kid right here, Robinson, is a big-time talent. He's got 13, and he and his friend Bowman are feeling it now. 59-51. Johnson. That one will go out of bounds. Well, no, saved by May. I think BC allowed him to get to that, thinking it might go out of bounds, and he hustled over to get it. Henson leans in, rejected by Mitchell. Numbers now for BC. 7 of 8 from the floor in this half. Make it 9 as Bowman comes off the back iron with that one. Perry up quickly to Cam Johnson. May fading away. Boy, there is not one shot not in his arsenal tonight.
It's not quite the dream shake of Olajuwon, but he used to take that fadeaway jump shot on the baseline. It's unguardable. If you're making it, it could happen. But for defender, it's a nightmare.
What a scintillating start for both teams. Won't fall this time for Mitchell.
I think the referees are praying for the under 16 timeout as much as the players are.
We haven't had a whistle to stop play. Finally, we do. On the bump underneath by Popovich's first. Kai Bowman with a hammer slam. And it's a 10-point game.
Now a click away. Customize your experience for scores, stats, highlights, and news. The ACC mobile app, presented by Outback.
61-51 our score. There you see the numbers on Kai Bowman picking up after a sluggish start. And his backcourt mate Jerome Robinson with 13. Averaging 18 and a half, and you can bet those guys are going to launch quite a few more before this evening is done.
Well, the two of them plus Chapman have played every minute of this game so far, and I would think that all three of them will be, unless they have foul trouble or otherwise, be at 40 minutes at the end of this one.
Williams, that one grazed the rim, and it's run down by Krasovic, and it's saved by Carlos Reyes.
And that's the one thing, Tim, you play this, you play against Virginia 40 minutes is a lot different than playing 40 minutes against North Carolina.
Absolutely. Going to struggle for Jordan Chapman at times tonight. On the other end, Johnson. Counted and a foul. He's got a baker's dozen himself.
Well, I don't think it's going to be situational, but you wonder if Roy Williams really hit on a starting lineup here, because there's a terrific take inside by Cameron Johnson, and he responded very well to the starting. May has kind of stolen the night, but Cameron Johnson's been really solid.
Well, this entire North Carolina team is having to adjust to life without those tall trees that they had a season ago. And Justin Jackson, of course, erased a lot of your issues offensively on given nights. This is not a vintage North Carolina front line by any means, but they're playing much better tonight. What a shot that was! Boy, Bowman splitting a double team in midair and came down hard on the wood here in Chapel Hill.
Here's the look and the great throw behind, but he's got the body to absorb that. Robinson, a little bit slider, but Bowman very powerful, but still that floor isn't soft.
No, not at all.
But then, imagine, look, every program can say, imagine if.
Yeah.
What if Tony Bradley had stayed another year on this team? How much different this team would be this year? That
was a surprise. To a lot of aficionados in basketball that he opted to leave. 64-53. The lead is 11. 6.5 gone by. Here in the second.
BC trying to play a little bit of a zone right now to get some rest.
May off the dribble handoff. Cam Johnson just slipped it to him. And he's got 30.
I caught it out of the side corner of my eye. It looked like his foot might have been on the line, but still, if it was barely. But he has come out just as hot.
Robinson leaving it for Bowman. I think that one was last touched by Krosovic. John Higgins giving the help that time to Tim Nestor and says that is in fact the case. That's a career high for Luke May. Incredible. With plenty of time to play.
That's, Tim, we touched on in the open about how, they needed to get his, I think he's regained his confidence and some. And that's a career high, and we're 27 minutes into this game.
Yet another germane point made by you in our production meeting today. We got to talk about Luke May here. They got to get him going. Well, guess what? The engine is revved up. Williams. Krosovic there had his arm on the shoulder of Brooks, and he got caught with a push.
Yeah, a foul there, but all in all, Carolina's been efficient offensively. The BC's done a better job on the defensive glass. Yeah, this is the best defender on Luke May in this game has been Roy Williams.
You going to break out the old Dean Smith, Michael Jordan line now? Up to 30 points.
Hey, how about this little thing? All right, you got Joel Berry having a quiet night, but he and Luke May both averaging over 17 points a game. The last time that happened, with a couple guys named Jordan and Perkins back in the early 80s.
Just 13 over his average tonight with a little less than 13 to play.
Yeah, he's already looking down. Coach, I'm rested. I'm good. Give me.
Well, when they beat Kentucky, his anonymity went away. He was rather anonymous in the North Carolina record books and really with a lot of the opposition until that game. And since that time, he has become, as you mentioned, at the top of the scouting report.
Well, Tim, how many times?
Wow.
How many times have we seen? And boy, just as a coach, Jim Christian's just very upset to get a lob dunk on a direct pass from underneath out of bounds. But we've done the NCAA tournament for a long time. How many coaches and players have we seen build their reputation on that stage?
Right then. Same thing happens with players, no doubt about it. Robinson.
Great job by Pinson stepping out and challenging that shot.
Pinson working on Robinson on this end. Sterling Manley is in the game. There's Pinson off the dribble.
The basket's going to count, but it's going to be a player control foul.
Yeah, it'll go the other way. So Harrison Brooks will get the player control, his third.
Well, if you're looking at the future of Carolina bigs with both Brooks and Manley out on the floor at the same time.
As we open the second half, Boston College hit 5 of their first 7 shots and cut the lead down to 8. North Carolina has responded big time since. Off the curl, it just will not fall consistently for Jordan Chapman tonight. There's another steal. This time, the job done beautifully by Brooks.
Well, North Carolina's defended 2 without fouling. Only 3 of 5 shots from the line from BC so far in the game.
Berry buries it. Timeout. Boston College. Everybody is happy tonight at the Dean Smith Center, 74-53, and we had a chance to visit with Mitch Kupchak, who you played against much of your career.
Yeah, I got to be very close with him and started. He was a 76 Player of the Year at North Carolina in the ACC. good early start with the Washington Bullets. Went to the Lakers, was a big signee out there at that time. Blew his knee out, and just the medicine wasn't as good back then, and he wasn't a player. But while his knee was hurt, he went to UCLA Business School, graduated there, and afterwards became a fixture in the Laker organization with Jerry West.
Wonderful guy. His son's now playing at UCSB. He's a gaucho. Told us about that when we were up in Roy's office. Here's Joel Berry again. By the way, after that bucket, it's a 13-love run. He's got 11. 3 separate times tonight, Mike, there have been at least 3 10-0 runs for North Carolina. And that is the difference in the game.
And it's right about this point here, although it's strong, so it's not going to bother him. But the pace of play is going to catch up with these guys from BC who have been out there for most of the game.
This is really the first time in conference play that they have been handled in such a manner. But North Carolina, you knew right away they were catching them at a tough time. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the iron kind to Mr. Berry. NBC Network, an exclusive production of Raycom Sports, and we're streaming live on the ACC.com. And a look now at our nation's top 25, brought to you by the Honda dealers of the Carolinas. Virginia, by the way, up 6 with 10 minutes left in their matchup with Syracuse. That game being played in Charlottesville as we speak.
And Syracuse has to go to play. They're 1-2, could drop to 1-3. And Tim, we didn't talk all about this overstaying. Here's the finish inside by Sterling Manley. But we didn't talk about. This was a really important early game for North Carolina, sitting at 1-2.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they're playing as though it's a desperation game. They're playing with that kind of energy and intensity. Again, Pinson with a marvelous dish. The foul goes against Krasovic, his 4th. And Sterling Manley at the free throw line. Youngster from Pickerington, Ohio. And he gets the kind iron himself, and he's got 5. He struggled in the game with Virginia on 2 of 8 shooting. He's had some moments. 24 against Pitt, a game played here last year. Robinson gets it inside to Carlos Reyes, who needs some help. Chapman's game has been a little indifferent tonight. He struggled. The matchup defensively really has bothered him. The size on the wing for the Tar Heels. Cam Johnson. Not there. The long rebound to Berry. Luke May adding to the tote board. Not this time.
And that was, he had Jerome Robinson switched off, and it was the easiest check that he had all night. But
no doubt about it.
The only shot that he missed.
Looked like it had to be automatic, and it came rolling out.
Right,
at some point, the basketball gods will catch up with him.
I think he's okay with the basketball gods tonight.
Exactly. Little stop and go and wrap around from Felton. Now that is a sign of what's ahead from Jalik Felton. This kid has all of the makings of a star if he can just get both sides of his game together, both offensively and defensively.
And I think as this ACC season rolls along, he's got to be an important part of what they do.
Yeah.
Get that confidence. But I'll tell you what, he's got great length. You could see where he could be a really good defender.
Johnson too strong with this one. Manley with a Manley rebound, but can't get the follow. Well, he'll hear about that one in the film room tomorrow. Came up with a big rebound and then could not get enough lift in his jump to plant home the dunk.
Yeah, they see the brush screen right there and no reaction. That one he was able to gather and go up. We used to call this Casper the Friendly Ghost got him. Came in for the block shot on the weak side.
The hardwood monster got him. 82-58 is our score. Under 9 minutes left now. Boston College really fighting an uphill battle. They need some of these from deep to go, and finally one does for Stephon Mitchell. Sunrise Christian Academy, where he prepped, he's got 10, so he cracks into double digits. Kenny Williams surprised Johnson that time with that pass. Williams ready this time, not there. Johnson on the offensive boards. Another one. He's got 10 boards.
Not just around the rim, too. They're getting the long rebounds on the threes as well.
Yeah, the ball has been planted on this end of the floor much of the night. Much to the chagrin of Jim Christian's team. And there's Pinson. A dominant performance from the defending national champions tonight. Pinson has 8. 84-61.
Think about that, Tim. This team's a jump shot away from being back-to-back champions.
Yep.
I mean, again, another what if, but
right. And during a time in which you could say some clouds on the recruiting trails had been following them, what with the circumstances they were facing that have now been erased by the NCAA. The talent level's only going to get better over time here in Chapel Hill. We'll be back after this word from your local ACC station. Take a look at our Toyota game summary. And Kai Bowman, after a sluggish start, did warm up somewhat, but Luke May just took this game over from the tip. Look at the rebounding story, Mike. It's off the charts.
No, I can't remember where it's on. You're coming up on a plus 30, and they've got more offensive rebounds than BC has rebounds.
Yeah.
Points in the paint, just utterly dominant.
Sometimes when you look at ACC schedules, timing is everything, and Boston College ran into a juggernaut tonight. This guy has done a remarkable job, and Jim Christian at age 52 is about to get the kind of support that maybe other BC head coaches in basketball have not had. Martin Jarman, the new athletic director at BC, played for Jerry Wainwright at UNC Wilmington. His family's from Fayetteville. He's got a lot of his own family here tonight. He worked for Gene Smith as his deputy AD at Ohio State, and Martin's doing a lot of fundraising, and they're about to get their facilities, practice facilities set up, getting the donors more involved in Chestnut Hill, something sorely needed at Boston College, and I know Jim feels awfully good about it. And look at that, in ACC play up until now, Mike, you see how competitive they've been. I mean, to only lose by 1, and Robinson went for 29 in that game.
Yeah, I mean, no player goes into Virginia and gets 29. Just a spectacular thing. They're right in the Clemson games from, a couple possessions down the stretch.
Yeah, they thought they let that one get away a little bit. This is a BC team that has rightfully, I think, visions of making the postseason this year. If these guards stay healthy, they likely will. That's a runner and an offensive foul, player control against Bowman.
Right. See, that's the issue when you're running a play. It's a simple basketball play. It's a screen roll, but Carolina isn't even worried about Reyes. They just everybody went and attacked Bowman, and he had 3 bodies around him. And what did Roy Williams tell us about his bigs? Willingness to step up and take charges in that situation. He's just got to get his freshmen to do that.
Bowman's been bleeding a little bit, and they went over to take care of that, and they're also cleaning up the floor just a bit from that. He's a tough football type. He can handle that.
He's gone across the middle, I'm sure.
Yes,
By the wide receiver, gotten a few high balls thrown to him.
Don't forget, coming up this Saturday, some great games. G-Man will be at that Wake-Duke matchup. I know then at 2 o'clock you'll either see Georgia Tech Pitt or Syracuse against Florida State.
Georgia Tech, a nice win against Miami at home the other night.
Nice backdoor to May. Rejected, though. Beautifully done by Bowman. How about the hops on Bowman to get that? And now Robinson with a steal. Well, the Carolina connection for BC worked there. And they had a highlight on both ends.
That's one of the few opportunities, though, that BC has had. Forced a turnover and gotten the ball out in the open floor, and
Bowman started it on the defensive end, and Robinson finished it. Felton with the shot clock winding down.
I think that's one where he may be better served hitting the lane, trying to make things happen. Felton just under 40% from three.
Bowman from downtown. Well, they got an open look. Now numbers for Williams. Right back at you. Felton. Jalik was sleek. And it's 86-64.
Yeah, you know what? He gave it up knowing he was going to get it back, too. That was a well-run 2-on-1 break.
First bucket of the night for the freshman from West Columbia, South Carolina. Chapman over Johnson. That's just been a tough matchup for him tonight. And another Tar Heel hits the deck as Luke. They're cleaning up that floor a lot tonight.
There's a look, and there's a great look ahead by Pinson right here, but now you give it up. Bowman's the only one back. And they talk about the upside of this young man.
Well, defense is going to be the key for him to get more minutes. A quick timeout taken for Boston College, but as we've seen in the past with great programs, sometimes it takes a while for a freshman to get his act together. The coach can keep him in his hip pocket and then bring him out right when he needs him. And Roy needed him a little bit tonight. Coming up on Saturday, we touched on it a moment ago, at noon Eastern, Wake. And just a short trip down I-40 to take on Duke and Cameron. Doubles have won 14 of the last 15 against the Dukes. Danny Manning's group looking for an upset. Then, at 2 Eastern, some of you will see Syracuse. They're playing Virginia tonight. That's the first game, as we mentioned. But then that second one will either be Syracuse at number 23, Florida State. Others will get Georgia Tech at Pitt. For the ACC Network game schedule, visit the ACCnetwork.tv. And remember that select ACC Network games are streamed live for free on the ACC mobile app.
And then here's a good reason why I don't like preseason bowls. And and how about what Mike Bray is doing? Bonzie Colson may be back for the ACC tournament.
He didn't have Farrell in Syracuse. Yep. He stayed back at Notre Dame, and they won anyway.
Yep.
But two of his best players not playing.
Miami loses down at Georgia Tech, as I said, so there's going to be a lot of juggling in that line up and down those standings throughout the course of the year. This first year, Tim, in college basketball since the AP poll came out in '49, that no team made it to January 1 undefeated.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a snapshot of this league,
no
too.
No doubt about it. That basketball landscape is flat. How can you handle not just a full cup of success, but a half cup of success? Listen, the NC State team that we saw play Notre Dame was not at all the same NC State team that played Duke the other night. I think that's one great illustration as you see Joel Berry come up with his 13th point of the night.
And I think it's been an incredibly unselfish night for Joel Berry.
Yeah.
They needed to get Luke May going, and he really has not hunted his offense. He's just kind of played the game, been the leader out on the floor.
Ben Baker Jr. has checked into the game for the first time, and that time Stephon Mitchell driving baseline is fouled.
Yeah, that's when it first hit me. I was getting old when I started doing games of sons of guys that I played against and with. And Ben Baker Sr., his dad, was a teammate of mine briefly up in Milwaukee with the Bucks at the end of my career.
Nice round of applause for Cam Johnson as he sits down. Some of the reinforcements now coming in to get a little extra playing time. Mitchell can't hit.
I'm going to be curious to see, Tim, if Roy Williams stays with this starting lineup. With Cameron Johnson out there at 4.
Berry comes up empty. Andrew Platek has come in for the first time. Number 3 for North Carolina. Carlos Reyes gives it up. Robinson trying to run to the three-point line to hoist it. A rare offensive rebound for Mitchell. Well, he was up in no man's land and lost it. And we've got a timeout. Jim with a wry smile over there. Just not his night along Tobacco Road.
By Geico, saving people money for over 75 years. By Food Lion, raising standards without raising prices. How refreshing. And by your local Chevy dealers.
Wonderful evening in the Carolinas, and a happy group of fans will exit the building knowing that Luke May had a career night. 32 points, 18 rebounds to go along with it. The last time it happened was another May, Sean May, that did that. Nice rebound there by Stephon Mitchell.
Most outstanding player in the 05 championship.
That year in Detroit.
And a relation with the Felton family as well.
Yep. Bowman finds Vin Baker Jr. Not there, over the back rim, and it's run down by Bowman. One to shoot, got to get it on the rim. They did. Another opportunity. This is the best offensive rebounding sequence Boston College has had all night. Stephon Mitchell with the rebound and the foul. He'll get to the line. Foul on Luke May is third. Well, our performance of the game is going to be brought to you by your local Chevy dealers, and there shouldn't be any surprise as to the man for whom responsible for the Chevrolet performance of the night.
Yeah, we've been mulling that over for about 10, 15 minutes, you know, trying to, it was a real head scratcher right there.
Difficult for us, it really was.
And here comes the curtain call.
Yep. Gosh, you would have thought Roy knew when our producer Rob Reichley and our director Lonnie Dale were going to give us that graphic.
Kind of sounds like a Carolina Panther game where the Luke Kuechly makes a BC alum makes a tackle.
Pinson leaves it for Manley. Now that is a Manley dunk.
I'll tell you, I mean, for these young guys, for these young bigs, if they just get themselves in position to get their hands ready, they're going to get shots like that.
92-65, 2 and change reigning. This is not a representative evening for Boston College. This is a young upstart team that's going to surprise a lot of people. They already have. Just ask the folks down in Durham. When they warm it up and they shoot it particularly well, you know that can happen. But look at this versus what happened with Virginia. Now, that says a lot about Tony Bennett's brand of basketball and North Carolina's inability to adjust to it that given afternoon.
It's always harder, Tim, to speed up a team that is really content to play at a slow tempo. And Virginia plays at one of the slowest in the country. They defend like crazy. And, you know, and plus they shot lights out. They put up 78 points in that game.
Curtain call for all of the starting performers tonight. And by the way, I thought it was wonderful the way Roy talked to us tonight prior to the game about, listen, I had to remind our guys, they were so down after the Virginia game. I got to remind them, listen, we got handled at Boston College a year ago. We went on to win the national championship. We got handled. You got to remind some of these young men that all is not lost when you lose a regular season road game in the ACC.
We didn't see, you know, Leo DiCaprio was nowhere to be seen on the Titanic going down.
Indeed.
But, you know, I mean, in this day and age, there's a lot of noise, a lot of static out there. It's tough to filter it out for these young men.
Brandon Robinson off the bounce. Now this young man from Douglasville, Georgia. His dad, Frank, was a high school hoops coach of his. He's got to be very proud of the young man. Good basketball IQ. And he'll continue to emerge. As will this young man. Jalik. Playtech. Hands wanting to shoot, looking for a pick, and a blow by against Baker. Robinson from downtown. Manley trying to just will that one up there, and he took a walk. It's a walk. I think the crowd wanted a foul, so did Roy.
Now even the second unit gets to take a curtain call.
They down deep. Some of the fan base would like to see 100.
Is there any pizza involved?
Maybe. You never know.
Maybe some Bojangles?
Hey, they had dollar beer night at Creighton the other night.
So you were able to spend $1, huh?
I didn't get that. I didn't get that assignment. I wonder why. There's a foul underneath. Look at the Tar Heels coming up. Speaking of tough outs and a team that will play you very similarly to Virginia. Notre Dame, that old burn offense of Mike Bray, he might dig into that shot clock and make North Carolina defend. That game is up at Notre Dame. It will not be easy for UNC.
Buzz Williams has really built reinvigorated a program up in Blacksburg.
Sure has.
Virginia Tech.
Just saw them this weekend, you and I.
Yeah, we gained 60 degrees in a very short period of time. It was 0 up there for the game.
Virginia's lead is up to 10, by the way.
And that's like a 20-point lead against anybody else.
Oh, they want these walk-ons to get a bucket, don't they? And there's finally another try, and it drops through.
Hey, Tim.
Shea Rush gets the bucket.
How about this? Luke May was a walk-on, okay?
That's right. So go get you some. You got a right to dream. You got a right to dream in this game. Well, listen to the fan base here. This is beautiful. One of the reasons you love coming to North Carolina for basketball. Now, Roy will wave them off. That'll be it. 96-66 our final. A bounce back for the Tar Heels, and for Boston College, a road lesson learned with a team that's, I believe, still got its best in front of them.
Yeah, and and obviously Luke May, big part of it. But like I said, I'm going to be curious to see if they stay with that lineup in this rotation, at least for the near-term future.
Well, May had a lot of help, and you see Roy talking with the Carolinians. Kai Bowman, the young man that is just down the road at Havelock, along the coastline of North Carolina, and Jerome Robinson from Needham Broughton, right here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah, you throw 32 and 18 out there. That's a week of game. That's a week or maybe 2 weeks for a lot of guys.
Well, we talked about lineage. How do you think his family feels with legacy stature from his father, Mark, who played quarterback at North Carolina? We'll be back to wrap it up, talk more about this game and the impact of it in just a moment. North Carolina front line by any stretch. But what Roy wanted to see tonight was his offense run from the inside out. Yep. You can do that even if you don't have stretch fours and all of that beef and girth that he's had in the past, and he was able to do that tonight.
Well, he's a Hall of Fame coach, 800 wins, and he's done it with getting his bigs handling the ball inside and getting touches, and he can't just all of a sudden go completely away from that. Now, at the end of the Virginia game, they did have no post players out there, and it was the only time he's ever done it while he's at North Carolina.
And you made an interesting point tonight that North Carolina decided to start May at the 5 spot, go small because of BC's quickness and that dynamic duo in the backcourt. And yet, 5 minutes into this game, Jim Christian was trying to go big. Yep. He was trying to make an adjustment, and it certainly didn't work out.
Well, and it all really started too with the North Carolina's perimeter defense.
Yeah.
They weren't shooting the ball well early in the game, but getting second and third shots. But really, they made it tough for the big three from BC on the outside.
Solid leadership in the backcourt too by Joel Berry, who allowed May to be the star, let the game come to him tonight. You know Joel Berry will be there by game's end. Here at North Carolina, Virginia up 5 with less than 30 seconds left at Syracuse. They'll get NC State at home next. This is a very dangerous Virginia team, no doubt about that.
Well, and they've taken advantage of it now. The schedule was really front-loaded for them for their first 5 at home, but that's eventually going to turn around. But this team has shown that proves the adage, defense travels.
Good to be with you. Traveling with you is always a pleasure, my friend. Our many thanks to Lonnie Dale, our director tonight, and our producer and executive producer of Raycom Sports, Rob Reichley, and our entire Raycom Sports crew. And a reminder, for highlights and must-see moments from this game and others, check out theacc.com. It's going to be a wonderful ride through the months of January and February, heading to March in Brooklyn. Our next telecast on most of these ACC stations, Saturday at noon Eastern, as Wake heads down I-40 to take on number 7 Duke. You'll see the G-Man and Bob Rathbun then. You've been watching coverage of the Atlantic Coast Conference on the ACC Network. It's an exclusive production of Raycom Sports.